Okay, picture this. You're at the airport, your bags are perfectly packed, you're so ready for vacation, and you step right up to the TSA checkpoint. You hand over your driver's license only for them to look at you and say, it's not accepted. You literally can't board your flight. Honestly, that is exactly the nightmare scenario millions of travelers are trying to avoid right now. Welcome to This Explainer. I'm your host, and today we are going to completely demystify how to get a real ID in the state of Iowa. We've dug through all the official Iowa Department of Transportation guidelines, the federal mandates, and the practical checklists to bring you a totally stress-free, step-by-step guide to this whole process. So let's dive right in. Here is our game plan for today. We're going to cover why you need a real ID, are you eligible, gathering your documents, the DMV application process, tips and troubleshooting, and finally, a quick review and takeaways. Starting off with Section 1, Why You Need a Real ID. So the Real ID Act is actually a federal law passed way back in 2005 to establish minimum security standards and help prevent identity fraud. But this timeline right here illustrates why you really need to act on this soon. The absolute critical deadline you have to remember is May 7th, 2025. On that date, you literally must have a Real ID to board a commercial flight anywhere inside the United States or to access certain secure federal facilities. Now, notice that second date there too. Starting February 1st, 2026, the TSA might offer a backup option called TSA Confirm.ID for folks who show up without compliant identification. But here's the catch. That comes with a $45 fee, and it's going to cause potential delays that could absolutely make you miss your flight. So the urgency to update your ID is very real. But hey, let's take a collective breath because I really want to clear up some major confusion here. You don't need a Real ID for everything. Yes, you absolutely need it for boarding flights, entering nuclear facilities, and accessing federal buildings. However, you do not need a Real ID to legally drive a car, to vote, to visit the post office, to buy alcohol, or to apply for federal benefits like Social Security. Your standard license is still perfectly valid for all those everyday activities. So you might be wondering, how do you know if you already have one? Well, it's actually super simple. Pull out your current Iowa driver's license or ID card and just look at the upper right corner. If you see a little gold star there, congratulations, you already have a Real ID. You're good to go. But if that space is blank or if your card explicitly says not for Real ID Act purposes, then you're holding a standard, non-compliant card and you are going to need to upgrade before that May 2025 deadline if you plan to fly domestically. Moving on to Section 2, are you eligible? The good news here is that virtually any Iowa resident who can prove their identity, lawful status, and state residency is totally eligible to get a Real ID. But the rules do look just a little bit different depending on who you are. For adults 18 and over, it's a straightforward process of just gathering your own documents. For minors under 18 applying for things like an instruction permit or an intermediate license, they can get the gold star too. Interestingly enough, minors can actually use a parental consent form to bypass the strict residency document requirements, just as long as the parent's residency is verified. And for immigrants and refugees, you are absolutely eligible as well, provided you bring in your most recent U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS documents, like an I-94 or a permanent resident card. Oh, and a quick tip for young adults, right when you turn 21, you become eligible to purchase a standard horizontal license to replace your old vertical minor card, and you can easily upgrade it to a Real ID at the exact same time. Now, before we get into the paperwork, we really have to address the elephant in the room. Some of the most common questions the Iowa DOT gets are about privacy. People ask, is there a microchip tracking me, or is all my data getting sucked into some national database? Well, the official answer to both of those is no. There are 0 electronic tracking chips in these cards. The physical materials are exactly the same as a standard license. Furthermore, the info you provide is kept securely by the Iowa DOT, and it is not entered into any sort of centralized national database. All right, Section 3, gathering your essential documents. Okay, this step right here is where people usually get tripped up, but I'm going to make it incredibly easy for you to remember. We're going to use a simple rule, the 1-1-2 rule. Because this is a federal credential, the DOT is incredibly strict about this. You need 1 document to prove your identity, 1 document to prove your social security number, and 2 distinct documents to prove your physical Iowa residency. And listen closely to this part. All of these must be physical, original documents or certified copies straight from the issuing agency. Absolutely no photocopies are allowed and nothing can be expired. Let's break down that 1-1-2 rule, starting with the first one, proving your identity and lawful presence. You just need 1 primary document for this. For most folks, this is going to be an official U.S. birth certificate or a valid unexpired U.S. passport. Now, here is a very common mistake you need to avoid. If you bring a hospital birth certificate, the really cute one with the little baby footprints stamped on it, they will reject it. It has to be a state-issued certified vital record. Also, if your current legal name is different from what's on your birth certificate, maybe due to marriage or divorce, you must bring the official marriage certificate or court order that links those names together. Next up is the second one, proving your social security number. Again, you just need one document here. An original social security card is perfect. If you can't find yours, though, you can also use a W-2 form, a 1099 form, or a pay stub. But, and this is a massive but, it must show your entire, full 9-digit social security number. If it only shows the last 4 digits, it simply will not be accepted. Finally, we have the 2, proving your Iowa residency. You need 2 separate printed documents from 2 completely different sources. These have to show your current name and your current physical address. Some really great examples include a utility bill, a bank statement, a signed residential lease, or official stamped mail from a government agency. And I literally cannot stress this enough. P.O. boxes are strictly prohibited. The government needs to know the actual physical structure where you sleep at night. Next up, Section 4, the DMV application process. So you've gathered your 1-1 and 1-2 documents. What actually happens when you walk through the DMV doors? Well, you can go to any DOT driver's license service center or local county treasurer's office in Iowa. While walk-ins are totally welcome, scheduling an appointment online ahead of time is highly recommended just to save yourself from waiting around. When you finally get to the desk, the agent is going to do something called document verification. They don't just briefly look at your papers, they actively verify them against federal databases to guard against identity fraud. For instance, they run your SSN through the Social Security Online Verification System, also known as SSOLV, and they run immigration documents through the SAVE system. Once everything clears those checks, your new card gets issued. Now, let's talk about the cost. How much does getting this gold star actually set you back? Well, the answer is, it depends on your timing. If it is already time for your normal license renewal, adding the Real ID star costs absolutely $0 extra. It is completely free on top of your standard renewal fee. However, if your license isn't expiring for a few more years and you just want to get the Real ID sorted out right now, you can surrender your current card and request a duplicate. That duplicate is going to cost you exactly $10. Not too bad, right? Section 5, tips, troubleshooting, and renewals. Look, even with the absolute best preparation, things can sometimes go sideways at the DMV. But the strict rule, and honestly the single most common reason people get turned away at the counter, is bringing documents with P.O. boxes. If your bank statement or your utility bill has a P.O. box listed on it, the DOT agent's hands are tied. They literally cannot accept it. You must find 2 documents that list your actual physical street address. Here is another really common troubleshooting hurdle. What if I lost my official birth certificate? First off, do not panic. If you were born in Iowa, you can just contact the Iowa Department of Health and Human Services or check in with your local county recorder's office. You can request a certified copy online, by mail, or even by phone. Just make sure you factor in the time it's going to take for that document to physically arrive in your mailbox before you go booking your DMV appointment. And here are some really great post-issuance tips for you. First, relax. If you already have a valid Iowa license, getting a Real ID does not mean you have to take a new written or driving knowledge test. It is purely just an identity verification upgrade. Also, once you have it, you can actually download the Iowa Mobile ID app right on your smartphone. If you happen to have TSA PreCheck, you can use this digital ID at participating airport checkpoints, and that includes Des Moines and Cedar Rapids. As for renewals, once you have the gold star on your card, you usually don't need to present all of these documents ever again for future renewals, unless, of course, you change your legal name or you move to a new physical address. Finally, Section 6, Final Review and Takeaways. All right, we are in the home stretch, so let's do a quick recap of what we've learned today so you can take action. Remember the 1-1-2 rule. 1 proof of identity, 1 proof of social security, and 2 proofs of physical residency. Remember that May 7th, 2025 deadline to fly. And I want to leave you with this professional disclaimer. Policies and procedures can and do evolve. Before you head out the door, we strongly advise you to visit the Iowa DOT's online checklist tool. You just answer a few quick questions and it generates a custom printable checklist of exactly what you need to bring based on your specific life situation. It is super helpful. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Pull out your wallet right now. Look at your driver's license. Does your ID have the gold star on it yet? If it doesn't, you now have the exact blueprint you need to get it done. Don't be that person stuck at the TSA checkpoint on May 8th, 2025, watching your flight take off without you. Book your appointment, gather your 112 documents, and get your real ID. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and safe travels out there.